Imagine the following scene: an independent, successful woman with a promising career and a salary that many would dream of having. Now imagine that, out of nowhere, your life turns upside down because of a single person, someone who should be part of the family, but acts as a destructive hurricane. This is Oksana's real story, a competent professional who saw her marriage to be tested by a mother-in-law who knew no limits. And when patience was running out, she took an attitude that would change everything. It all started when Oksana met Igor. He was affectionate, attentive, the man she imagined spending her life next door. But there was a detail that he always mentioned with a certain fear: his mother, Tatiana Dmitrievna. "She's hard," he warned. "But you will see, over time it will accept you." Optimistic Oksana, he believed. After all, who would not give the family of the man who loves? But Tatiana was not just difficult. It was a force of nature, the kind that rocks everything along the way. From the first day, it was clear that, for her, Oksana was just a temporary obstacle, an uncomfortable piece on her son's board of life. While Oksana built her career as a manager in a large company, earning a respectable salary of 80,000 riaris, her mother-in-law lived from a mere retirement of 14,000 and missed the opportunity to complain about the unfair life. At first, they were just requested. "Igor, son, I need some money for medicines." "Oksana, my dear, couldn't you help me with the accounts this month?" And Oksana, hoping to maintain peace, gave in. After all, who would not help the family in a moment of need? But what started as a gesture of goodwill soon turned into an oppressive routine. The requests became demands. "The old TV. A shame, I need a new one. The trip to the spa. My health can't take this stress anymore. The winter coat. You can't go out on the street with these thinned clothes." And Igor, as an obedient son, served everything, emptiness of the couple's bank account without blinking. Oksana tried to talk, explained that they had plans: a car, a son, a future together, but in her mother's first call, her husband ran to open his wallet. Until it came to the drop of water. One March night, without warning, Tatiana broke into the couple's apartment as if she owned the place. He sat on the sofa with a martyr and released the bomb: "Enough. I can't stand living like that anymore while you swim in cash." Igor, as always, rushed to serve her, but Oksana, this time, did not move. She just heard, with her mother-in-law, while the woman declared, with the greatest naturalness in the world, "From today, Oksana, you will give me half of your salary. It's fair. After all, without me, Igor would not exist, and you wouldn't be here." It was as if time stopped. Oksana held the machete with which she cut vegetables and turned slowly. "Sorry, I didn't hear it right. Are you serious?" Tatiana did not win. 40,000 a month. "It's the least for me to live with dignity. You have an obligation to support your husband's family." Then something inside Oksana burst. A year and a half swallowing frogs, giving in, silent, and now that. No. One word. Firm. Definitive. Tatiana's face writhing with anger. "What do you mean, you should? I raised my son, I sacrificed my life for him, and now it's your turn to repay." Oksana didn't go up. "You raised your child to you, not to me. And I owe nothing to you." The mother-in-law stood up, her eyes sparkling with hatred. "You will support me until I die, you ungrateful." But Oksana had already made a decision. If Tatiana wanted to treat her like a boss, then it was. But with rules. She took a notebook and a pen. "If I'm going to play your life, then let's do it right. First, you don't put your feet here without being invited. Second, you get money once a week, in small amounts, and me. Resents invoices from everything. Third, no purchase over 1,000 riaris without my authorization. And fourth, no visitor in your home without my consent. After all, who pays it?" Tatiana was gaping. "Are you crazy? Who do you think are you?" Oksana smiled without joy. "Exactly who you wanted me to be, your maintainer. But if you didn't like the conditions, you have an alternative: get your own money." The mother-in-law turned to Igor, hopeful. "Son, will you let her talk to me like that?" But Igor, for the first time, seemed lost. He was looking at his mother, his wife, and didn't know what to do. Oksana didn't give time for hesitation. Igor, choose. Either you put your mother in her place, or I leave this relationship. It was like a bucket of cold water. He finally understood that he was about to lose the woman he loved because of an unhealthy dynamic. Mom, I think we better talk at home, he murmured, trying to get around the situation. Tatiana, furious, spat the last words before leaving. This is not over. I will still have what is mine by right. When the door closed, the silence that was weighed. Igor, head down, tried to justify herself. She wasn't always like that. After my father died, she changed. Oksana stared at him, cold. I don't care how she was. It cares me how she is now and how you will deal with it. Because if I don't take action, I take it for you. And so the countdown started. A week. That was the deadline that Oksana gave. 7 days for Igor to prove that he was able to put limits, to defend his family, to be a man. But Tatiana was not the type that gives up easy. In the following days, she turned to everything, tears, emotional blackmail, until she spread to the family that Oksana was a cruel, heartless woman. Some relatives believed. Others, no. But Oksana had already crossed the point of no return. She knew that if she retired now, she would be that woman's slave for the rest of her life. And that, she would not allow. 2 weeks later, Tatiana returned, this time, not alone. The war was just beginning. But Oksana was no longer the same woman who swallowed everything in silence. Now she was ready to fight. And it wasn't going back. Tatiana didn't come alone this time. Beside her, Igor's cousin, Natala, should attest to Oksana's greed and cruelty with her testimony of neutrality. Look, Natasha, lamented the mother-in-law, with theatrical tears running down her face. Here's my daughter-in-law, earning mountains of money, and even 1,000 rubles gives an old sick like me. Natala looked at Oksana with disdain, as if her silence was already a confession of guilt. Isn't you ashamed? Igor is Aunt Tanya's only son. Oksana listened to everything with a calm that scared. Then, with an almost imperceptible smile, he replied, Great. Let's clarify this right here, in front of everyone. Tatiana Dmitrievna, tell to Natala how much money you received from us last year. The mother-in-law choked. Hesitated. But Oksana was already one step ahead. Since I don't trust my memory, I wrote it down, he said, pulling a bag of the bag. The list was relentless. Medicines, supermarket, electricity bills, clothing, a new TV, a trip to a spa, bathroom renovation, furniture. 230,000 rubles in 12 months. Natalia widened her eyes. And that not to mention the birthday and Christmas gifts, Oksana continued, turning the page. Tell me, Christmasa, how much do you spend on your mother-in-law? The woman stammered, disconcerted. Well, it's different. Different as? Ah, I understand. The difference is that your mother-in-law does not require half her husband's salary. Tatiana Dmitrievna felt the floor shake under her feet. Natasha, don't believe her. She's lying. They don't want to support me, Oksana corrected, Dries. We don't want to give you half of our family budget. And you know why? Made a dramatic break. Because we have plans. We want children. We want a bigger house. We want to live, don't survive to play their whims. You, on the other hand, want our life to revolve around your demands. Natala began to understand the real dynamics of that conflict. Aunt Tanya, are you not exaggerating? The Allied betrayal was the final blow. Tatiana Dmitrievna got up from a jump, held her chest and wore, I'm having a heart attack. You'll kill me. Oksana, impassive, took the phone. Call an ambulance. Miraculously, the mother-in-law recovered at the same time. No, you don't have to. I go. She tore off her bag and fired at the door, cursing Oksana with all the curses she knew. Natala spent a few more minutes, visibly embarrassed. Sorry, he murmured to Oksana. I didn't know any of that. My aunt told a very different story. I know, said Oksana, without grudge. She is a master to distort reality. When Natalia left, Oksana felt something she didn't experience for months, relief. For the first time, there was no guilt shadow hanging over her. There was no expectation of one more requirement, another emotional blackmail. There was no need to bend to please. Igor arrived late, his face closed and his eyes tired. "My mother called," he warned. Crying. "And what did you say?" Oksana crossed her arms, curious. "That we can no longer give so much money. We need to live too." She looked at him, surprised. Was he finally seeing? "She said I died to her. She has no child anymore." Igor spoke with his embargoed voice, and Oksana felt a twinge. But it didn't give in. "She's not serious. In a little while he warmed her head and comes back. And if you don't come back, so you'll understand that for her you were never a child. It was just an ATM." Tatiana Dmitrievna disappeared for a whole month. Igor almost went crazy with worry, but Oksana was irreducible. "If you run after her now, everything is like before. She needs to learn that blackmail doesn't work." The mother-in-law resisted exactly 30 days. Then he called his son, with his sweet voice, "I am ready to talk." The meeting was in a neutral coffee. Tatiana Dmitrievna was thinner, her eyes back, but still intact pride. "I thought a lot," he began. "Maybe I demanded too much." Oksana almost laughed. It was not an apology. It was a desperate attempt to save appearances. "Well," he said dryly, "let's discuss reasonable help." They hit 10,000 rubles per month, more emergencies support. Tatiana Dmitrievna accepted, grinding her teeth. "But I won't forget how you treated me," he said to say goodbye. "And I won't forget how you treated us," said Oksana, without changing the tone. The first months were tense but bearable. The mother-in-law received her 10,000 and, for the first time, didn't complain. Igor gradually freed himself from maternal conditioning. Until Oksana got pregnant. The news of the grandson changed everything. Tatiana Dmitrievna returned to their house, but not with charges, with gifts. He tricoted shoes, bought toys, gave advice on baby's care. Oksana suspected at first, but soon realized, the change was real. The mother-in-law's maternal instinct had reborn, but now directed at the grandson. "You know," said Oksana to Igor one night as they watched their belly grow, "seems to have finally understood that family is not synonymous with a source of income. It's synonymous with joy." He hugged her hard. "Thank you for not giving up. If you had given up, we would still be slaves to her." Oksana smiled. "I just showed her that extortion is a game for two. And that I play better." When Maxim was born, Tatiana Dmitrievna became the perfect grandmother. Help without intruding. Advice without imposition. And, above all, it never ordered a kopeck beyond the combined. 5 years passed. Maxim grew up, Oksana was promoted, Igor learned to say no to her mother. The family became united not by obligation, but by and Skola. Until one afternoon, Tatiana Dmitrievna confessed to Oksana, with a trembling voice, "I was wrong. I thought everything should just because I gave birth and created a child. But no one owes anything to anyone just for existing." "You were just afraid of being alone," said Oksana, without judgment. "But family is not about money. It's about love and support." The old woman nodded, her damp eyes. "I understood that when I saw that you were willing to leave my son just so as not to become my victim. You showed me that dignity is worth more than money." Oksana hugged her. "And you showed me that even the hardest people can change, if you want." Now his house was echoed laughs and children's voices. Tatiana Dmitrievna visited not as an extortionist, but as a grandmother she loved. And Oksana finally understood what a real family was, where care is born from the heart, not coercion. Sometimes, watching his grandson playing with his grandfather, Tatiana Dmitrievna thought about how she was close to losing all that because of her own greed. But life had given him a second chance. And she had known to enjoy her. Oksana, in turn, had learned the most valuable lesson: sometimes you need to be cruel to become kind in the end. And that the greatest happiness is not to be loved for what happens, but for what it is.